Hello and welcome in to the Touchdown NFL podcast. Week 6 is almost in the books. It will be by the time you listen to it. First of all, I want to say congratulations to the 72 Dolphins. No team is now unbeaten in the NFL. So the Dolphins from 72 remain the only perfect season so far. I wonder if it'll ever get beaten. It was never going to be the season to have it this season, I don't think, considering it's just a bloodbath in the whole of the NFL, really. But yeah, we've got the usual crowd, Taib and Willow and myself. Guys, how are we doing on this this tired Monday as we record for various reasons?
Yeah, just talking off air, weren't we? I mean, just as a total aside, if I'm going to give anybody if anybody takes anything away from this podcast this weekend, I just want to just make sure that you're drinking water when you go out. Make sure that you are drinking enough water to sustain yourself so that you are not massively dehydrated at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So when you go down to a queue at, for example, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and go down to the bar at Spurs to get some water, and the queue's sort of round the corner, just stand in the queue, drink some. Don't be like me and not drink water. Just drink some water. This is the message from the Touchdown podcast this week. Make sure you're drinking. Stay hydrated, guys. It's important. It's very important. Otherwise, I'm fine. Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important. I ran a half marathon yesterday. That's why I'm tired. Small humble brag, I guess, but definitely to stay hydrated for that. And yeah, Taib staying up in the late window watching the Lions. At least you got a win, mate. You know, keep on rolling. Are you bored of it yet? Are you bored of winning yet?
No. This is so strange. Honestly, trust me. Like, and the other thing as well is like, was it 4 games now? Like where they've won by 2 scores or more. So like it's kind of strange. Like even like I've said before, like even when the Lions had like winning seasons of 1 games, normally it's like on botched field goals or last second field goals or something kind of crazy happening in the last 2 minutes. They don't win games with like 5 minutes left on the clock. It's kind of strange. No, it was frustrating. Thanks, Fox, for moving it into the late window. I don't know why they did it. Like, because like Eagles Jets was still like the game that apparently most of America got anyways. So like that turned out to be a pretty good game. So I'm tired, but yeah, no, I don't think you got bored. I got so used to like losing. You got bored of losing. You know what I mean? Trust me.
That must be a good feeling. Absolutely. So we've got our usual segments, really. Biggest takeaway, talking point of the weekend, games of the week, and then more moments before we move on into Monday Night Football predictions, which obviously my Chargers hosting the Cowboys as well, which obviously should be a really good game. Should be a really good game for anyone who's staying up. As I've said, I won't be because I'm too tired. So I'll be putting my phone on airplane mode after we're done here, and I'll go to bed, and then I'll get up in the morning and watch it first thing. Which is the usual way. I'm too old to stay up for primetime games nowadays. So anyway, let's move straight into it. So biggest takeaway of the weekend. Taib, we'll go for you. What's your biggest takeaway for the weekend?
Yeah, so my biggest takeaway, like obviously we live now in like an analytics ruled world of like you should pay this player this much money and you should not pay this player that much money, and like we've got into a world where it seems like there's certain positions, so obviously quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end, left tackle, etc., are getting paid a lot of money, and then other positions like safeties and running backs aren't getting paid so much. The Tennessee Titans basically outsmarted themselves. They thought they were kind of being clever by playing the analytic game. I call it playing Madden, really, because in Madden you can do this all the time in franchise mode. You can kind of move a player on, draft a really good guy, and then like the conveyor belt carries on. But like you think back to the 2022 draft, the Titans traded AJ Brown. They got that pick from Philadelphia, and they got Treylon Burks. And like watching the Titans yesterday, well, firstly, Treylon Burks has started 3 games last season out of a 17-game season, and he's missed 3 games in a row with a knee injury. Like he didn't make the trip to London yesterday either. And then they've tried to patch that alongside Julio Jones, who was past his best. Like Julio's a Hall of Famer. Like he's going to the Hall of Fame. Absolutely phenomenal player, but like last season he was clearly past his prime. And DeAndre Hopkins, who again probably looks past his prime. Like I was watching it yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, this Titans offense is just rubbish. Like nobody gets open. Like it's true. Like nobody gets like, and like a lot of friends of mine were like, "Oh, Ryan Tannehill's really bad." I'm like, nobody's open for him. And like outside of play action passes, nobody gets open on this offense. And I'm like, you guys had like a ready-made superstar in AJ Brown, like one of the best number one receivers in the league. Like you've got your Jamar Chases, your Justin Jeffersons, these people. He's right up there in that kind of tier one kind of group. He's that good, and we've seen it obviously now in Philadelphia. And to be fair, like he was part of the team when the Titans got to an AFC Championship game when they won the number one seed in the AFC. Like he was a really good performer for them, and it kind of annoys me that like I hate it when teams try and like overcomplicate it. Just pay him. Like you guys had like a ready-made superstar that you drafted and developed. Pay him the contract. Figure out the rest of the cap. As I said, the cap can be manipulated so much. Like we've seen teams like New Orleans do it for so long. Like you can work the cap out at a later date. And also you got to understand is like contracts that are signed now in 3 or 4 years' time are probably going to look small. Look at like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes' contracts. Do you know what I mean? Like because the cap's just going up and up and up. Like league revenue, unless like another global pandemic comes, like league revenue isn't going down anytime soon. So like the salary cap's just going to go up, and they could have afforded it. Like Mahomes' deal was ridiculous 5 years ago. Now it looks cheap because new guys are coming along and getting more of the money. So like they could have worked it out. And yesterday I was watching. So the league average for like wide receiver separation is 2.94 yards. DeAndre Hopkins averaged 1.1 yard of separation. Nick Westbrook-Akina averaged 1.4 yards of separation. Chigga Kwanko averaged 1.9 yards of separation. And Kyle Phillips had 2.2. So 4 of the 5 guys that caught passes for the Titans yesterday were not just below league average, well below league average. And like Ryan Tannehill, like even Tom Brady or someone really pinpoint accurate is going to struggle with that. Like it just annoys me that like a team that had a settled roster that had a lot of success decided, we're too smart to pay AJ Brown. Let's kind of play Madden or like play it as if it was a computer game and we'll get a replacement easily for much cheaper. Now you can maybe do that with a running back, but like the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons and now the AJ Browns, they don't grow on trees. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. It's just kind of maddening that like this was a team where they had a pretty good thing going. Whether they were going to win the Super Bowl or not, who knows? But fact of the matter is they were one half away from a Super Bowl appearance in 2020. And they kind of just fumbled the bag so badly. And honestly, it was so frustrating watching it yesterday because like every pass seemed a contested catch. Do you know what I mean? Like I know they had like a lot of penalties and there was kind of some PIs and some holding calls on Baltimore, but those guys were so close to all the Titans receivers that it was like, it's just hard to make plays with that. You look at the best offenses, guys get open, if you're having to throw into a really tight window, that's hard work all day long. And that's where, as I said, I'm just frustrated with how the Titans have built, or that decision has now kind of sent them into a path where you look at this offense, there's nothing really, like, unless Derrick Henry can kind of rumble forward again, and outside of the play action pass, this offense has like just literally nothing at all. It's not really an offense, like once they're not in the play action game.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of things about that is, first of all, obviously, you like you say, you've got a young budding superstar in AJ Brown, and they've tried to replace it with old guys, in terms of Julio and then obviously DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, there's Treylon Burks, it adds into that as well. But you need more than one wide receiver now. And the other thing is they've got a ton of cap space. So what are you doing with it? If you weren't paying AJ Brown, what are you doing with it? So yeah, it's kind of a head scratcher and like say Madden to play Madden, I guess, like you just kind of phrased it. But Willow, you were at the game. Did you agree with Tabe's assessment there?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, about halfway through the second quarter, I pulled out my phone and drafted a tweet to the effect of the Ravens have 4 times as many yards, 5 times as many first downs, 3 times as many points. The Titans have nothing. Like literally there, I deleted it because at that point I'm opening myself up for an hour down the road. Oh, you look like an idiot. It's like, yeah, I always look like an idiot. But anyway, it didn't come to be. Wasn't cold takes in that regard. But like their best offensive player was the Ravens defense, right? Like Taib said, a ton of holding and PI calls. Some of them 50-50, some of them pretty on the nose. But regardless, their biggest earner was outside of one Derrick Henry run. They just needed one of their wide receivers to get their shirt pulled a little bit, and they had very little else. I feel for Ryan Tannehill because, like Taib said, he's a good quarterback. You're not in the league for as long as he has been unless you've got something. And clearly, he's a good, safe quarterback who can move the ball efficiently. He had very little time to throw the ball, and when he was throwing the ball, it was, as you say, it was a contested catch. It was a 50-50. And when you're just trying to pick up something to get some momentum going, I mean, can you not just scheme a guy open somehow, just like generate some space somehow? But there's no speed on the offense. Like even in the running back, Derrick Henry rattled off a massive sort of run sort of in the second half. And even then, it looked like he was running through treacle a little bit. It was a weird one. I don't know. It was a really frustrating game to watch from a neutral who wants to see a good game. I was obviously very impressed by the Ravens. I thought they play well, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point. But the Titans really did themselves no favors. They elected to come over late in the week. They went for the short week, the Thursday to Monday, whereas the Ravens were over like basically at the full-time whistle last week. Like they came in Monday morning. Ready to work. So, like, is there an element of that? Are we going to see more teams coming over at like for a longer stay again? I don't know, but they didn't look prepared at all, and they come going back to America with far more questions than answers. I don't know what the answer to their issues are. I still quite like Burks, but he's never fit. They're a weird one. The things that were going for the Titans going into the season were that they were the steady team. There was a bit of sort of consistency there. They had the old hand. They weren't going to turn the ball over too much. And they were just going to be a little bit efficient. And you've taken that away. They're behind in the division race. Are they even in a playoff conversation at the moment? I don't think so. So, yeah, outsmarted themselves very much so. It's probably going to be one where we look back in 5 years as one of the dumbest trades in league history. Like, there's always one of those. This is the stupidest thing a team's ever done. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what they did. So yeah, I very much agree with everything that you guys have said.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that Treylon Burks is a bad player, but he's a big slot receiver, and that's when he's most effective. He's not an X receiver like AJ Brown, and just looking at the stats from yesterday, there's one thing that stands out to me is that the Titans had 9 third downs and they converted one of them. And you need a guy, right? Who's going to just go and get you the ball. We've all seen it with our teams who have had reliable receivers. They come in all shapes and sizes. Go from like a guy like Keenan Allen to a guy like Megatron, 2 different types of receivers, but in got to have it situations. And Julio Jones as well, not to leave Willow out as well. 3 guys that are a little bit different, but 3 guys that when you go to it in got to have it situations, they've got a quarterback's got a guy to go to. Who's that guy for the Titans? They don't have someone. They just don't have that guy, and that's one thing that just like puts a massive cap on their offense, because as soon as you get into that third or even just a critical situation like goal to go or something like that, they just don't have a guy who they can get it to. And, we've seen in the past couple of weeks, obviously we've had the Jags come over to London, we've seen them up and close and personal, and then we've had obviously the Titans come over. You can see that, first of all, the Jags are a better team, first and foremost, if we're talking about the divisional race. And then you can see that coming over to London is also a good idea to do that as early as possible and spend some time over here. The Jags looked much more prepared than the Bills. They were over here for over a week by that point. And then, like you say, the Ravens have come out here earlier and they've looked much better team. On paper, they're a much better team anyway. But, also probably doesn't help they came out. Teams have got to start coming out here earlier, and it'll happen with Germany as well.
Yeah, like this is like, before we move on, none of these teams like to play on a Sunday ever practice, and they don't ever hold training sessions on a Monday. They'll like, players will come in, they might get like niggles and knocks kind of seen to, and they'll go through film. I don't know, like, what's it, 6 hours from like East Coast time, or 9 hours, whatever it is, right? You can pretty much do that on a Monday, considering like they don't go out on the field and have like padded practices or any kind of training sessions on a Monday. I don't understand like why teams kind of come over Thursday, Friday, especially if like an opponent's been here since Monday. I just fly out on the Monday. It's not like, again, like they're not flying on Ryanair. Like I'm pretty sure like the Baltimore Ravens or the Titans or whoever will be well looked after when they fly over. And then when they've got the facilities at Spurs, it's not like, again, Spurs aren't playing in like the Evo Stick Premier League. Like they're a Premier League football club. It's not, the facilities are there. So like, I don't understand why teams, as I said, like nobody trains on a Monday. Like if they've played on a Sunday, they come in, they'll watch the film, they might go through like some injuries, some players might get strapped up or whatever, but they're not going to hold any training sessions. So fly over on the Monday, then you can get like a proper night's sleep and then have a training session for real on the Tuesday. Seems kind of common sense, but I don't know. Like, I suppose some like players might not want to be away from home, but then like I don't know, like it's 1 week, you know. And again, it's not like they're not going to be staying in like the travel lodge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
World's rock hard mattresses. Like, you know, I imagine the hotels are pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, they might be able to not hold a full team meeting on the plane, but you can certainly watch film on your iPad on the plane. You know, get together in your position groups on the plane, have meeting. You know, there's facilities to do this. But yeah, it's something that I've definitely thought in the past couple of weeks that, you know, with the way that the Titans have played, with the way that the Jags have played, just to kind of give it a, like I said, the example I just brought up, that, you know, I think teams need to start coming out here earlier and treating it as a proper business trip rather than just a flying visit.
Yeah.
Can I just add, sorry, just to go back to the game itself, I found it so sort of interesting how willing the Ravens were to just kind of completely disregard the passing game, the passing offense with the Titans. Like you every time they ran the ball, again, outside of this one run that Derrick Henry kind of rattled off that went from 50 yards or something, it was literally short gains, if that. They were just selling out the defense for the run every single time, and the Titans could not capitalize on that. That shows to me absolutely no respect to what the Titans can do through the air. And as we've talked, they don't have the ability to do it right now. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, no real point other than Titans kind of suck. But they probably win again next week. Again, completely out of nowhere, they'll surprise us and beat someone to death, and then it's like, oh, they're a strange team, aren't they? Yeah, they are. I don't really know what they are. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll. I just seen why you might have said that. I was thinking, who do they play next week? And obviously, it's the Falcons.
So we got the Bucks, haven't we?
Or at least that's they must have their bye week. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you're right. They're on the bye.
Oh, we got the Mets. Bye week. Okay, they'll heal up. Fine. Yeah.
Apologies, I didn't look at the date. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
Maybe I'll mention the Titans again in my wider point, but we'll let you go next with your big takeaway for the weekend.
Big takeaway for the weekend. Yeah, I'm not making any sort of sweeping sort of statements on the season at large this week. It's purely based on what I saw in week 6, and that is it was not a good week for quarterbacks. In general, I kind of look at the quarterbacks that you've come to expect. These amazing performances from Mahomes looked fine. I really struggle kind of outside of that. I've earmarked sort of Jared Goff and Tagovailoa, but even then it was kind of good, but not kind of exceptional. Brock Purdy has been in the conversation for potential league MVP. Obviously, a lot of injuries for the 49ers this weekend, and he kind of struggled as a result of that. A lot of teams are going to when you lose players of that caliber. Jalen Hurts is obviously a very good player. Struggled against a really good Jets defense. Granted, a really good Jets defense, but that was a really strange performance, I thought. There, even league's greatest quarterback Desmond Ridder had a few picks, so it was a difficult one for quarterbacks. I had a chat with a mate who works in sports somewhere, and he sort of put this down as when it comes to the MVP conversation in, I don't know, sort of 12 weeks time or whatever, this is not going to be the week anybody looks back as the moment somebody emerged as the clear favorite. It was just a weird one. I've got a working theory in that players have gotten too used to the warm weather and it got colder this weekend, so they weren't kind of used to it, and that maybe put them off a bit. So climate change possibly affecting the way that our quarterbacks are throwing the ball. But otherwise, yeah, just a really weird weekend in general. Actually, watching back through the highlights from the weekend, it felt like a weird weekend to me. But in terms of quarterback play, not a vintage weekend of NFL quarterbacking. I don't know if anyone's got any more theories as to why that might be. But yeah, players that I thought were going to be much better than they were. Not great. Good, but not great. If that's probably the best I can say of the top tier. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was a bit of a weird week in general. I didn't think that the standard of play was was too high across the league. You know, me and Tay, we were talking about this before we hit record, weren't we, about how it was just a bit of an odd week, and you can almost extend your bad week for quarterbacks out to a little bit further as well. You know, Justin Fields got injured, dislocated his thumb. That's a massive question mark moving forward, not only for the Bears, you know, as a whole, but also him. You know, it's a massive critical season for him. Did Trevor Lawrence get injured as well? Derek Carr didn't play.
Garoppolo got hurt.
Garoppolo got hurt. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that one, but yeah, that was off my radar. Raiders. And then obviously Derek Carr didn't play very well at all against the Texans. So yeah, just a pretty bad week. You know, when you know you say that Mahomes was fine, that was as good as anyone this week, wasn't it? Really, and he didn't play. He didn't like exactly blow the doors off a bad Broncos.
And even by his standards, do you know what I mean? Like it was weird. Like yeah, like I don't think. I mean, obviously Tua and the Dolphins continue to roll on. Yeah. Like I think Thomas's theory with the weather might come into play with the 49ers, but we'll come on to that later. But yeah, it was just a strange week. Just a strange week. Like Josh Allen scoring 14 points at home. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just odd. Like it was one of those weeks where I feel like it's hard to kind of take any underlying things. You just got to say sometimes weird things happen in the NFL on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you just kind of roll on to next week, get to AEW and go if you've got it, which is the mantra for a lot of teams, I guess, at this stage of the season, as it's kind of getting into the middle portion of the season, I guess, and teams starting to figure each other out a little bit. It kind of blends into my point, really, in the fact that I feel like as time goes on, we've been kind of talking about the same sort of teams, and I feel like the picture's becoming a bit clearer now, in that, maybe we've got some takes that we had in the preseason that weren't right, but again, we've got some ones that we did get right as well, but we've talked about the Lions frequently, not only because obviously Tave's a fan, but also because they're having a great season. We've talked about the Dolphins almost no end, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Chiefs, these teams are kind of separating themselves now. These are obviously, becoming the tier one teams, even though that, a couple of them lost, 49ers lost, the Eagles lost. But kind of like what you just said, it's kind of like whatever, just kind of roll on. We know that these guys are good, so it's fine. I think we've got our contenders now. And this is kind of the season really taking shape, whether they've got elite quarterbacks or not. Some of these teams have got elite sides of the ball. Most of them have got two, Then it's up to the teams that are just hanging on behind them. The Ravens, who we've just talked about, the Bills, the Browns, the Bengals, maybe if they can kind of get something going. The Browns in particular, one we'll talk about, as you've just mentioned, who do have an elite side of the ball. And then, maybe the winner of tonight's game between the Chargers and the Cowboys, those sort of teams have got to hang on to the coattails. And then on the flip side of that, we've got the teams that are obviously bad, who are just not very good. And I feel like there's quite a lot of those, and there's quite a deep middle class of teams as well. The Bears, the Patriots, the Panthers, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Broncos. That's a large portion of the league. Maybe we could add the Tennessee Titans into that. If they, lose their next game against the Falcons, does that then relegate them to that? As a 2-win team through 8 weeks of the season? There's like I say, there's a lot of bad teams that are kind of fighting for that, those early draft positions already. Draft season's coming thick and fast for those guys. But yeah, like I say, I think over this week, I think next week and the week after that, as we get halfway through the season, we're going to be able to see who we're playing with, who's going to make the playoffs, and like I say, who's kind of looking towards next season.
Yeah, we're a third of the way through now, aren't we? Like that's this is the point. You're absolutely right. Where you start to go, it becomes a lot clearer that the funny one of the Panthers. Every single time I've talked about the Panthers this week, I've always brought up it might look like they're tanking, but they've got no reason to tank. They haven't got a first round pick. Isn't that funny? But yeah, it's it's just a. And I mean, the great thing about the division system is that you can finish sort of 8-9 or 9-8 and still get into the playoffs somehow. And you've got those divisions kind of separate. You've got the teams separating themselves from other teams. You've got divisions separating themselves from other. You can see where the elite teams are. I mean, they're always in the NFC, but then you've got the NFC South, which is always hilarious with 3 teams on 3 wins and the Panthers well at the bottom. You're right. It feels like we know who's good now. There's still quite a few question marks over some teams, but the teams that are at the bottom, I think it's probably time to start sort of investing in your scouting department and see what if I'm the Patriots, for example, I'm putting everything heavily into the guys that I've got dotted around the country just to see kind of what's going on. But yeah, we're at that point now, I think, where we can see where things are going to be in a couple of months' time, barring any huge surprises.
Yeah, and I'm sure the team who will be looking after the college content will be starting ticking up their draft content fairly soon for the fans of those teams. Thinking about the takes that I said pre-season, I'm going to call myself out. I had the Panthers down to win the NFC South, so that one's gone really well. I'm going to be looking like Marge when she's hiding in the supermarket very soon when that one gets brought up. But the other ones are kind of obvious, weren't they? They were kind of, and some people might say the Panthers was obvious as well. But yeah, we'll kind of move on from that. But yeah, like you say, we're definitely going to be able to tell where we're going, giving it a couple more weeks through here. So let's move on then. Let's move on into our games of the week. We'll go the same order. Tay, what's your game of the week this week?
So mine was kind of weird. Like, I saw you guys obviously chose your ones. I was going through the highlights and I was like, there's not really a game that like moved me a lot. If I'm being totally honest, it was like, like there was kind of two really standout games, and then everything else was kind of either really one-sided or just really strange. I kind of settled on the Vikings and the Bears. Like, we're talking about bad football teams. Like, a friend of mine texted me saying, did that game really happen? Like did they actually play? It was 1913, and it was like the most forgettable 1913. There were turnovers all over. As I said, like the only headline from that game was Justin Fields' injury, which, to be fair, looked a nasty injury. It was kind of one of those like autumnal days in Soldier Field where like the field is rock hard. This is where the other thing, like the grass and turf thing, some of those grass stadiums when it's cold get really rock hard in like the cold weather conditions. And he smashed his hand off the thing, and obviously now he's dislocated his thumb. The Vikings were bad without Justin Jefferson, predictably so. Jordan Addison caught a nice touchdown in the end, and obviously they're going to have to lean on him. I think the thing with the Vikings, though, it's so bizarre how I always thought they'd regress from what they were last year, because going 11-0 in one-score games is just freakish. Like it's not going to happen year to year. It's just a mad thing, and they had like a really good turnover differential. It's just crazy, like how bad their turnover differential is. Like any way that they can kind of turn the ball over, the Vikings seemingly find a way of doing it right now. And it's kind of whether it's tipped balls that get intercepted, fumbles from quarterbacks, pass catchers, running backs. Like it's kind of crazy. And then mad interceptions that Cousins will throw in from time to time. That was a strange game. Honestly, it was like obviously again the Lions were like the late windows for like some of my Lions friends were watching it. I'm like, this is just the most bizarre game of football. Like you'll see all because like loads of important things happened, but ultimately it was like so unimportant what happened with the final outcome. It was just like, well, this game was played, people watched it, and they went home. Like it was just honestly, it was a bizarre game, and I think we're talking about bad like the Vikings could sink. Like I think Jefferson's out for like 4 to 6 weeks on injured reserve. He's obviously unbelievable, but if you're really relying on Jordan Addison, who's a rookie who's still learning the game, and TJ Hawkinson. So like, there's not really a lot of like offensive firepower left for Minnesota. The defense still isn't great, although they kind of terrified the life out of Justin Fields on certain blitzes when Brian Flores went after him. But no, overall, this was a strange game. It was a strange game between two really bad teams.
Yeah, I want to signpost at this point. We were talking about the Vikings. Andy Davis wrote an article, Oliver on the touchdown.co.uk about asking what should the Minnesota Vikings do now. He's asking whether they should tank or not. Jefferson, like you say, is a big factor in that, isn't it? Being injured for such a long time and with such a poor record right now, it is a real big question.
They have an opportunity. They have an opportunity. Like Cousins is a free agent, so they don't need to like. We see sometimes like teams end up having a really good pick, draft a quarterback, but there's a veteran kind of incumbent in place. Like they don't like Cousins isn't going to be there next season. I'm almost certain of that. Like I think,
absolutely,
like they've both come to the end of that road, like just mutually, no kind of one reason or another. They've had some good times there as well. But like the opportunity is there for them. Like if they end up with third pick or the fourth pick, someone like Michael Penix Jr. or someone like that, they could draft. And like I said, they got no obligation to pay Kirk Cousins any money at all once the season's over. So like there's a natural kind of segue for them to do that, and then it can kind of reset the whole process. But I don't know. It just like at least with the Bears, I think with the 2 first round picks that they have, and obviously currently it looks like they're going to be picking first and second, which is just mad in its own right because of the Carolina trade. Well, like, so at least there's some kind of like they've got massive draft capital to go and improve that team quickly. You think with 2 kind of stud players, the Vikings, it feels like there's Justin Jefferson and there's not really a lot else to like build upon at the moment. Like they kind of just feel like they've got to settle on a direction of, do we want to reset the whole thing, or do we want to kind of keep this band rolling together? And I think that's probably a decision they're going to have to make pretty soon, because they got the 49ers next Monday night. So like, San Francisco will probably destroy them, given, it's an indoor game. They come off a loss, probably not very happy about losing so early once they dominated everybody else. So I don't know, like, they got big questions to answer on Minnesota. But yeah, this game was dreadful. Like, it was a miserable experience.
Yeah.
That's a bit harsh.
I can see that.
No, well, it's just,
I can see the feeling in which you're saying this as well about 2 divisional rivals. So you're really enjoying that.
Yeah, because like I'll be honest, like this was like a flip Minnesota and Detroit. Like this is the Lions Bears game have been miserable for like the last 15 years. Like this is effectively that thing of like 2 bald men fighting over a comb. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of it's like this is such a waste of time game. Like nobody's going anywhere. Like it's like So it was just a strange game. It was one of those games that said like it had an outcome, but the outcome of it was just so unimportant to both of these teams right now that it's kind of hard to take any kind of big picture thing from it. Apart from that, like I said, Jordan Addison looked decent. Kirk Cousins still turned the ball over. The defense played well, but I think that's more with like Justin Fields just struggling with the blitz. And I think apart from that, that's really all you can say about this game.
Yeah, well, let's move on then. Willow, you're going to a team who I'll kind of give myself credit on this, who I thought was going to be good or better than they were billed to be, and it's turning out to be that way. So I'll take the win on that one.
Yeah, this is very much. I'm going to completely embarrass myself. It's either Schadenfreude or Fraudenfreude. Which one is it?
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. There we go. So the obviously I was at the game in London yesterday. So with it being in Spurs, it's a nightmare to get back from. So we were trying to get some sort of stream. I was trying to get the Falcons game on my phone. It kept cutting out. My mate had Red Zone for the train halfway. So we weren't really picking. So I basically, but the way that I was engaging in these games was just Googling NFL and waiting for the results to come. And the Texans were beating the New Orleans Saints, but the Saints had the ball right at the end, and they couldn't get it done. I think it was a poor an opportunity for Michael Thomas to pick up the first down, and he didn't, and that's hilarious to me. But what makes it even funnier is that they're paying Derek Carr, who I think is fine. I think Derek Carr's a fine quarterback. He's not great. He's not bad. He's fine. $100 million to basically be the more expensive. I keep bringing him up every week. Desmond Ridder. He's got the exact same statistics as Desmond Ridder. Maybe a few more yards, but certainly not as many touchdowns. The Saints are a weird team in that they expected to be good every single season based on a reputation that they gained about 15 years ago. And ever since then, they've just disappointed everyone at every turn, which, again, is very similar to where the Falcons are at. But the Texans, I like where they're at. I like CJ. So I know he threw his first interception this weekend, which it was coming. He was never going to go a whole career without throwing. Can you imagine? He's never going to go a whole career without throwing a pick. So he got that. So he's got that out of his system, and he can get over it. But he's a safe quarterback. He's a good quarterback who doesn't turn the ball over often. But he's also capable of making some really nice throws. And they're building something in Houston that I didn't expect to come to fruition really for another couple of years. It feels like they're slightly ahead of schedule in terms of being in games that they probably shouldn't be in. No one, I think, well, I did, because I'm top of the ballsy coolsy table as a result, but no one was picking the Texans to beat the Saints at the start of the weekend, and they pulled it off. It wasn't a pretty game, granted. It wasn't a spectacular game, but as we've already discussed, what game was this weekend. It was just nice to get off the train way later than it should have been, to see that the Saints have lost to a team that we beat as well. How bad you have to be to lose to someone that we've beaten? So yeah, no, I'm good. That's my game of the week. I wouldn't go back and watch any highlights. It's not a great game, but yeah, best game of the week by a billion miles. So there you go.
Yeah, like you say, Derek Carr just not getting it done. A couple of fourth down attempts that they didn't get, and again wasn't great on third down. Struggles with pressure. D'Amico Ryan's turned it up. So, I mean, I've seen this movie plenty of times before with Derek Carr and pressure. I think Joey Bosa even said it to him, literally to his face in a game or in a press conference, and it's kind of obvious. You know, he chucks it and ducks it. You know, he's not that good of a quarterback. You know, he's like you say, he's fine. But is he going to get it done? You know, he's quite an expensive one for the level that he is. So
this is what infuriates me. I don't think I ever thought I'd say this, but I hate this version of the New Orleans Saints. And I've said it before. Like, if the Lions didn't exist, I would support the New Orleans Saints. I hate this version of the Saints so much because, right, like they said, they paid $100 million to a quarterback who, like, say, for example, if Jameis Winston was still the starter, or Taysom Hill, the Saints' ceiling's probably 9 or 10 wins and probably a loss in the first round of the playoffs. They paid $100 million to Derek Carr to stay at that level. Like that's kind of like, I think they were just better off, like, because Derek Carr isn't a win now quarterback. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not. Like, I'm with you, Lee. Like, I think he's a good quarterback. Like, he's fine. You know, we live in a world where fine is really bad. Do you know what I mean? It's like such a knock on someone. He's fine. He's just, as I said, he's just not great. And like, why would you bother paying that money when, as I said, James Winston will probably do that job for you at like a fraction of the cost? And just kind of, yeah, like I think at this point the Saints, like the defense is good, like it's decent, like they're always competitive, but they're offensively still a disaster. They were offensively bad last season as well, and like they paid a lot of money just to stay at the same level. And it's kind of, at some point you just got to say, you know what, maybe we should just take our medicine and reset the whole thing.
Yeah, just as you were talking there, because we don't have a great deal on this game, because as Will says, it wasn't the greatest one. I was trying to search a new nickname for Derek Carr. I was googling the world's most expensive bridge, and we were going to name it after him because, like you say, he's not going anywhere, is he? He's not going to get him anywhere. And
that's like it's the crazy thing is
that's
like
that, isn't it?
Well, Jameis Winston was the bridge, a lot more inexpensive. Do you know, like Jameis will come in and probably do a similar type of job. Like, I feel like the results are probably going to have been the same given the schedule and who they've played. Maybe the Packers game they ought to have won, having been 17 up in the fourth quarter, but that one game aside, the Saints have kind of lost where you've expected them to lose, and then won who like you expected them to win. But yeah, like it's just infuriating because, like, as I said, like, why make that decision? You know, like, try and reset the whole thing and see where that, because ultimately your aim is to win a Super Bowl. Derek Carr's not going to get you there.
No, absolutely not. And you know, the other thing is, I'm historically not a big Jameis Winston guy. I think he's not very good. But you know, from a Saints fan point of view, at least it might have been a bit more exciting. If we're going to get anything out of it, you know, and like I say, not spending loads of money doing it.
And as I said, like, you're not spending a lot of money doing it, and you know, you're probably going to have similar results. You know, like you know, don't think the gap between Jameis and Derek Carr is, you know, Jameis will probably throw more aggressive, which means he'll probably throw a few more interceptions, but then Derek Carr is very conservative, you know. So, like, as I said, like, I think both kind of sit in that same tier of solid enough quarterbacks. Both have flaws, both have ceilings. As I said, I just don't get why the Saints paid that type of money to a quarterback who wasn't that much better than what they already had. And as I said, they could have just kick-started the post. It feels like they're trying to hang on to the post-Drew Brees era. But he retired, 3 years ago now? Like, you know, Hall of Famers are difficult to replace. Sometimes you just got to kind of move on instead of trying to patch together something without, you know, one of the great quarterbacks of the 21st century.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the bridge thing, we're not going to go that way because it's a bridge in China, and I don't want to go there with the pronunciation. So yeah, moving on. And yeah, my game of the week. On paper, should have been a really good game beforehand, but it didn't turn out to be. It was the Browns versus 49ers. It was one to watch pre the game because it was the best defense in the league against the best offense in the league, and it kind of sort of turned out to be like that in one way or another. The rain obviously didn't help; it hindered Brock Purdy massively. But I think, you could knock this game for a few things. The fact that Brock Purdy struggled, it was a low-scoring game. It wasn't the exciting thing that we wanted it to be. It was a potential game-winning kick that should have really gone over, but didn't. So the Browns kind of lost it in that way. The Niners lost CMC, they lost Debo, but all that just added to the drama, didn't it? In the end, and that was what made it a great game. I thought. Don't forget that as well that the Browns had PJ Walker, who I learned today his name is Philip, which is odd. I didn't expect that. I've written about this for our wins and losers column. I think the Browns defense is just one for the ages. They've got some insane stats. I'm not going to run through them all because I want you to read my article over on the Touchdown tomorrow when it comes out. But this is his historic defense that's really one to watch. If they could be paired with the Dolphins offense, that could be just a Super Bowl over. But that's not how it works. It's really a shame for Browns fans that they haven't got an offense, haven't got a quarterback. They've sunk a lot of money, just going back to our previous conversation, into a quarterback who actually was probably worse than Jacoby Brissett. And they're obviously having probably buyer's remorse over that now. And if they can find an answer and Kevin Stefanski can lift up that offense to a good level, then they can keep this defense together, because that would really cause problems for the rest of the AFC. I thought pre-season that Jim Schwartz would just give them a middling defense, but he's given them an absolute monster. Like I say, the 49ers played their part in this, and had a lot of things to go against them. They're not to be counted out. Like I said before, they're still a tier 1 team, in my opinion. But yeah, as much as this kind of fits into the rest of the conversation that we've had, that it wasn't pretty, but it was still an exciting game. I think this is what it is, and this is how it fits into my game of the week.
Yeah, and Ndamukong Suh said this about the Ravens and Titans game, but the best defenses in his experience have always played instinctive football, just fast from the get-go. They're not reacting to what they see; they're just carrying out their assignments. You look at the Browns defense, they've got really world-class athletes. Their linebackers fly around. Obviously, Myles Garrett's a superstar. Dalvin Tomlinson and Mo Hurst on the interior have been really good, and then on the back end they've got Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, and these people they've got they match up well athletically against anybody. And so now, instead of playing with, and people within Cleveland have said they played with a little bit of fear, they played kind of within themselves in the previous years. They're just basically playing with the handbrake off. And it's it's just the big thing with this one is how fast they are, how fast they react to everything. In that game as well, they're the first team I've seen probably kind of take the NFC Championship game out of it, because San Francisco lost the quarterback and it kind of became a schmozzle after that.
Yeah.
But they're the first team, since McCaffrey's been there anyways, to really bully the 49ers' run game. They basically just almost every snap you watched, outside of probably the touchdown, which was a shovel pass from Purdy to McCaffrey, it was really tough sledding for McCaffrey. That and when you think how good he's been, they just destroyed that San Francisco offensive line. They bullied them, and kind of whenever there was a handoff, whenever there was a run, particularly out of shotgun, they were already in the backfield by the time the handoff happened. There's something ridiculous. They got 19 on the passing side of things. Cleveland created 19 quarterback pressures out of 36 drop back snaps, which is just insane. But that's kind of, I think we've always felt with the Browns, they've always had the players on defense to be really, really good. Now they've just kind of come together in this kind of most fast and physical way that and also the free agent additions, people like Zadarius Smith and these guys have come in and been excellent. As I said, it was a strange game, but it was a really good game. It's kind of a typical AFC North game. And that's kind of where I feel the 49ers have been lost. This was Brock Purdy's first ever rain game. Would you believe it? He's only played, so I had their schedule from last year. He finished, so he played Miami at home, Tampa Bay at home, Seattle away, which can be cold, but it was a dry weather game. Washington at home, Las Vegas, which was indoors, and then Arizona indoors. Then they had 2 playoff games, and then obviously he got knocked out of the NFC Championship game so early. And obviously this season he's played in pretty much warm conditions. This whole it was kind of a difficult one. Some quarterbacks get better. Brady obviously got really good at it because he played in cold weather conditions his entire career. Brock Purdy did find it difficult yesterday. It was a wet, windy game with a ferocious defense, a defense that right now is playing at a historically high level. I wouldn't worry too much about the 49ers. I think the biggest thing with the 49ers is how bad are the injuries to McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. That's probably more of a concern than losing the game. You know, like if you'd said to them, you'll lose the game, but you won't have any injuries to your big players, they're probably like, you know, we'll take it. You're going to lose at some point somewhere down the line. You know what I mean? It happens, you know. Perfect seasons don't happen. That's why there's only 2 teams in the history of the regular season that's ever done it. From the 49ers point of view, I wouldn't worry so much about the performance because they're not being asked to play in Cleveland every Sunday. And I think Cleveland are going to make life difficult for they made life difficult for Joe Burrow in a wet and windy game on opening Sunday. So they're going to do that to a lot of teams, obviously. So I wouldn't worry too much about the 49ers. But I think with Cleveland, it's just a pity that whatever situation they got with Deshaun Watson and this shoulder injury that doesn't seem to go away, or like they cleared him, but then he didn't feel right. And it's kind of weird the way they've managed that whole thing. And I think he's barely done a press conference since the time. So reporters in Cleveland haven't had a chance to ask him what the situation is. So they've got to kind of find a way of clearing that up because they've had their bye. They've come off their bye, you know what I mean? So they've got a lot of football left ahead. It's not going to they've got a week off. So they're going to have to work that bit out because if they don't, I don't think PJ Walker's going to carry them to the playoffs, which would be a shame because I think this defense would be fun to watch in a playoff situation against Buffalo, against Kansas City, against Cincinnati, whoever they would come up against. That would be a serious test because, as I said, I've not seen anybody push the 49ers around. Even in the screen game, the 49ers have the best screen game in the NFL. And Cleveland just blew up screen after screen play. It was ferocious, was the word to describe it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. And, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? Oh, go on.
Sorry. I was going to say, do you want a statistic? So yesterday was my first I'm not going to fill in a backstory for a little statistic, but I had to listen to NFL radio for the first time ever yesterday on the way back. And on TalkSport 2, it was the 49ers versus the Browns. It was whatever feed they had, but every now and then it kept cutting back to I think it's Will Gavin, who does the TalkSport NFL stuff. Anyway, this was a statistic that blew me away so much I had to write it down. Kyle Shanahan has played against or coached against Jim Schwartz 9 times, yesterday included. Jim Schwartz has a record of 8-1 against Kyle Shanahan as a coach. And the only victory that Kyle Shanahan offense has had against the Jim Schwartz defense was a 13-12 win when he was the Houston Texans offensive coordinator. And that was back in 2011 or something. So we talk about teams having other teams' numbers. Jim Schwartz has got Kyle Shanahan's number big time on speed dial. That's my one takeaway from what was, by the sounds of things, a disgracefully sloppy yet somewhat entertaining game.
Well,
that's a really cool stat. Yeah,
that's an unbelievable. I read about it in The Athletic. For some reason, the defense that Jim Schwartz runs, the wide 9 defense, got implemented. Oh yeah, it's because Chris Kosierek, the defensive line coach in San Francisco, worked for Jim Schwartz when Jim Schwartz was in Detroit. He was the defensive coordinator when Jim Schwartz was the head coach. I love stuff like this, tracing it back to when things originated. But yeah, there's a stat. Do you know what it is? I don't know if there's going to be a stat better than that this season. That's an unbelievable stat. That's it's brilliant stuff, that, Thomas. Give Thomas a round of applause for that. It's an unbelievably good stat.
Will Gavin, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for that round of
applause. Yeah, it's proper top class. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, from that great start into us just laughing at people in the NFL. So, meanwhile, moment, Dave, go ahead, give us something.
Yeah. So mine was the distracted boyfriend gift because Cooper Kupp's back and he got he led the Rams in top. Puka Nacua was buried down the stat sheet. He didn't get over 50 receiving yards. He didn't catch a touchdown. Kupp got nearly 150 receiving yards and caught a touchdown. So poor old Puka Nacua. For fantasy people, his rise may come to an abrupt end now that Stafford's got his favorite target. And the one thing about him is I love Stafford. He's not one if he has people he trusts, he'll not throw it to anybody else. He'll look for his go-to guy. You know, he did the same with Megatron. Don't get me wrong. There wasn't much else outside of Megatron. And you'll do the same with Cooper Kupp. You'll just carry on feeding him. So yeah, it might be time to get Cooper Kupp back into people's fantasy lineups because now that Stafford's seen him back, Puka Nacua sadly might get sidelined.
Yeah, could do. Hopefully, you can feed them both though, because Nakua has been a real breath of fresh air, hasn't he? It's been real fine for them.
It's been excellent.
But
yes.
anyway, go on, Willow. What's your?
Yeah, so it's I don't know.
As always.
Yeah, I don't know what you call it. It's just a guy with a stick, just kind of poking. Come on, do something. Very much me. Sat in block 508 or whatever it was in the gods at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, watching the Tennessee Titans punt after punt after punt. Just do something. Just complete a pass. It's not that hard, is it? Like, man, apparently it is. So do something, please.
At least Malik Willis did a little bit, didn't he? To give him his dues. A little bit.
Long gone by then. The Ravens scored their field goal right at the end, about 5 minutes ago, and we just looked at each other and went, "This is done, isn't it?" It's like, yeah, fair enough. Like walking back up Tottenham High Street, it's on in one of the pubs. Look through the window, and like the Titans are in the red zone, and I'm like, "How's this happened?" So they haven't done this all day.
That was a red zone possession that lasted a lifetime, by the way. They were penalties.
That's crazy. That's a crazy sequence.
It didn't stop that red zone possession. It just went on and on and on.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
Yeah.
So to finish this off, I'm going to throw a bone to Giants fans, which is a bit of an odd position for me to take, but I'm going to give a refs is blind kind of meme that the Bill got away with that one on Darren Wall, didn't it, towards the end of the game. My God, that should have been a flag, and then the Giants could have probably scored from that position. I'd say could have because it's the Giants, but any competent NFL, I suppose that rules it out again, doesn't it? But the Giants should have won. The Giants should have won. Is what I'm trying to say. Hey, Brian Daboll was good once, wasn't he? So yeah, we should maybe give him at least the credit that he could score from 1 yard out with something. The Bills got away with that one. So yeah, refs. And obviously, we talked about the 49ers Browns, and that was a flag happy game, wasn't it, as well? So come on, refs, let them play. But yeah. Let's move on into our Monday night predictions then. So last week, again, not a great showing. It's not turned out too well with our predictions. It's almost like we don't know anything about what we're talking about. Taib scoring, we all went for the Packers. So Taib scored
Jordan Love. I was trying the reverse psychology. I'll always try and predict the Packers to win. I always try and, even when they played the Lions earlier, I was like, no, this is still Green Bay. They're the favourites to win, where I was like, deep down, I was like, we should really win this, but I'll always predict them to win. Like, almost every year, if you ask me to predict, Packers this season, they'll go 17-0.
Well, you did get a point for Josh Jacobs being held to less than 100 yards anyway. So that was the only point scored last week. And moving on then, tonight's game, as we mentioned a couple of times, Cowboys coming to LA to play my Chargers. Taib, what are you predicting?
This is a hard one. Do you know,
it is a hard one, isn't it? It's a good game.
Yeah, we've had some really weird standalone games over the last few weeks. This is a really good game. I'm kind of in two minds. My heart's saying Chargers, but my
don't
head's
try
saying,
reverse psychology again, mate.
No. My head's saying I don't know. I just feel like Dallas, obviously after getting smashed as they did, and they'll know that if they lose again, every television network and podcast and radio station will be waiting to bury the Cowboys again. And sadly for Chargers fans, there's going to be a lot of Cowboys fans in that stadium. I've seen Rex Ryan say the game's being played in Los Angeles, so it'll probably feel like a home game for Dallas. I just fancy, and they played there 2 years ago, and I think the Cowboys won.
Yeah,
I'm just going to go Dallas. I don't know, man. 28-25. That's just a total stab in the dark. I genuinely feel it's a flip of a coin game.
Yeah, it is. It's very close. It is really, really close, and that's kind of reflected in all of our predictions, I think. But yeah, go on, Will. What have you got?
Yeah, I've got Cowboys to beat the Chargers. Not because I don't believe the Chargers, but because they got smashed last week, and just to save some face, salvage some pride, they've got to pull one out. I don't think it's going to be easy. I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game. I've gone 30-27, and my scenario is that Justin Herbert gets the ball back with, I don't know, about a minute and a half to go, drives them right down into field goal range. The kick flies wide right or left or wide, and you're just going to be there at 7:30 or whatever it is tomorrow morning. Just I wish I had not got up early for this.
Hopefully not.
So-
Hopefully that's not you wishing that.
Yeah,
upon
hopefully
me.
not. I mean, you've seen my record this season. I'm pretty certain I've got one thing right all year. So congratulations, I suppose.
Yeah, the problem is I've not done too much better, and I'm predicting a win for the Chargers, and it's probably a bit of bias because, like you say, it's a really tough game. It really is a close game. I think again we've got to negate the Cowboys pass rush, but I'm going to say it's going to be 24-20 to the Chargers, probably because of home field advantage. Justin Herbert's going to have a game-winning drive because I think he's had one yet this season, and he is a master at them. And he's a bit of false advertisement coming out from a few analysts about him not being clutch recently. I think he needs to answer that with a game-winning drive this week. Oh, well, Monday night, it's not weekend, is it? But yeah, Monday Night Football. Primetime Justin Herbert is a good Justin Herbert as well. So as long as that left middle finger is okay, then I think we'll be right in this and hopefully pulling out the win. But yeah, like I said, we'll see. We'll see what we got wrong. Probably all. Well, we can't all get it wrong, can we? Since we've got a couple of you guys going for the Cowboys, and I'm going for the Chargers. So at least one of us will get a 1 point at least. But yeah, that brings us to a close for week 6, lads. Again, thanks for joining us. Come over. I'm away this week, so editing duties is over to Simon. Winners and losers, 5 wide. Everything else that's coming NFL-wise will be on the Touchdown website. And no video content for me this week. I won't be doing plays I like as I'm away. And obviously, all the college stream will come out as well. That'll be throughout the week. But yeah, guys, like I say, head over to @Touchdown NFL. Head over to YouTube, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Hope you've enjoyed the stream that we put together for you guys. And we will catch you next time.